I'm live. All right. Remember, if you ever miss class or you have one of these arrangements, just go to the website and watch and be amazed. Okay. As it became obvious after Columbus made his 5 voyages that there's something out there and that this something ain't China. It's something else. Other explorers went out and it became obvious that there was some land out there. And of course, the Europeans feeling that, well, it's ours because it all belongs to Pope, right? Pope. It all belongs to Pope. So any new land is Pope's. And that's too much land for one guy. That's a lot of lawn mowing. So you got to delegate it to your attack dogs. And there were 3. There were 3 attack dogs, 3 nations that were continuing to be loyal to the Pope. And do we remember? Spain, Portugal, and France. There you go. Now, France is behind the game a little bit. They don't have the technology to explore like the Spanish and the Portuguese. And so what happened was they laid out a map of Earth. And they know something's out here, but they don't know what's out here. But they know something's out here. Now, remember now, the Portuguese are exploring around Africa. So what they did was they laid out a map, and the Pope said, all right, I'm going to draw a line. And he drew this line, this one. And he said, all right, Spain, you get everything west of that line. You're welcome. Portugal, you get everything east of that line. All right. So the Spanish send out explorer after explorer, and they're like, look at that, look at that, look at that. Woo! Christmas. And the Portuguese are like, all right now, we're going to keep looking. Damn it. 1 year later, the Portuguese are like, and the Pope said, okay, fine. We'll make a new line and we'll move it a little more west. And you'll notice that it clips the new line. The original line is called the 1493 line of demarcation. That's this one. 1 year later, they made the 1494 line of demarcation, ya baby, Portugal. And you'll notice that it clips part of South America. Does anyone know what nation is this today? Brazil. It is Brazil. There was an explorer. His name was Cabral, I think. He was a Portuguese sailor. And do any of us race cars? Do any race car drivers or fans of the race? If you want to maintain a high speed, but you want to take that left turn, right? You want to go that way, but you want to go kind of fast. Do we understand the concept that in order to do that, you actually should kind of turn right first and then turn left? Is this, do we know that? Don't you watch that movie with the car that talks? Cars, yeah.
There you go.
Hey, the weird thing is, to go left, I turned right. Well, the weird thing is, I turned right, and I went right. Maybe in Bizarro World, am I right on? By the way, every Owen Wilson movie ever. Wow. Every Owen Moose movie ever. Wow. Okay, anyway, there he is. He's in Portugal, and he says, all right, I know Africa is shaped like that. I want to take a shortcut. I don't want to hug the coast of Africa. I just want to go like that. And so I'm going to take a right turn and then go left. So he does. He takes a right turn, and then a storm kind of blows him a little bit even more off course, and he suddenly lands there. And he realizes, hey, I'm on the good side of that new line. I'm on the good side. Sticks the flagpole in for Portugal, bam! And as he's about to stick the flagpole in, the natives that live there are like, no. And he's like, boom, too late. And the natives are like, damn it! Well, that was a good try, but there's nothing we can do with the flagpoles in there. Because you do know that at the time, the flagpole, that was it. It was over, right? So when the English landed, flagpole, and the Indians are like, shoot! Well, let's go, Bill.
How do the Indians know that?
This is all a joke. None of this is true. You are charged with the responsibility
Yeah, okay, Potter. I'm tired, okay?
of knowing
Potter,
when I say things that aren't true.
Potter,
That's your
Potter,
job. Okay. So anyway, another interesting question. Do you know the official language of Brazil?
Portuguese.
And now you know why. Now you know why. The rest of South America and Central America, Spanish. And Brazil is Portuguese. And now you know why. Because it was Portugal that initially claimed it as a part of the Portuguese Empire. And what you can see this is Portugal's empire at one point, right? So of course it's around Africa, which I had said. If it's around Africa, it's Portugal. Anything other than that, it's Spain. Down here, bullet points that say, well, what were the results of the Portuguese and Spanish claiming of lands in the Americas? Fabulous wealth for both Spain and Portugal, especially Spain. Right? Spain becomes the dominant global power for a while. Spain was it. By the way, that's kind of an interesting thing, is look throughout world history and see who's it at any given point in time. This was Spain's it. That ended in 1588, one day in 1588. It's kind of amazing how empires just, damn, that's it. From that point on, they go down. And in 1588, a real bad storm wiped out like half the Spanish Armada. They were trying to invade England, and a bad storm wiped it out. So that was it. And then they're replaced by various countries. England had its it moment for a long time. That basically ended right around World War I. And today, the it is us, actually. The U.S. is it for keeping going, what are some of the other results? Well, what they would do is they would land, and then the next boat would land there, resupply, and then explore even more. And so what they're doing is they're exploring and claiming. They're exploring and claiming. They've moved to the next stage. Remember the 3 stages of hey, there's land out there? The first stage was go around it, right? It's in the way. And then
explore.
Well, yeah, what is this? And then
Conquer.
let's take it, right? Okay. In the Americas, the Spanish are now at the point of let's take it, let's conquer it. And so they set up this system, and it's called the encomienda system. It's Spanish. And basically what that meant was Indians would be used as slaves, that they would justify the use of Indians as slaves. Can anyone in here take a shot? Now, this is big thinking here. You're contextualizing right now. Why this didn't continue? Why did the Spanish and later on the English, who also initially thought Indians slaves, why didn't that last? Why did that effort get abandoned and they went with, let's go with Africans as slaves? Anyone want to think it through and think, well, here's a theory. Go ahead.
Because they had already been near Africa and stuff, they weren't getting sick and dying off as quickly.
Very good. So not a very reliable supply of labor. The Indians kept doing this annoying thing, dying. Good. Any other theories? Why is the Indian not a reliable slave? And I'm saying that as if it's an insult, right? Like, God, you're late. Okay. Any other theories though? Yeah.
They couldn't speak the same language.
Neither could the Africans. Any other theories? Well, you know what else the Indians kept doing? Fighting and running away, right? Running away. How's the African going to run away when you're over here? You're going to go back to your home? You're going to run away back to Africa? You're going to drown. The Atlantic's water. Okay, very good. And then again, race-based slavery is the result. The conclusion that the Portuguese and the Spanish and later on the English and other Europeans made was that black people would make fine slaves. We're going to take them out of their natural element. We're going to bring them over to the New World, and we're going to have race-based slavery. Questions? Very good. Let's keep rocking and rolling. Now we are continuing to look at, well, we just looked at the Portuguese Empire. Now let's take a look at the Spanish Empire. So as I've said, Columbus comes over here and he explores part of the Caribbean, but there were others. There were other Spanish explorers, and I really shouldn't call them explorers, because exploring means you're mapping and you're saying, well, that's interesting, and people who landed on the moon were the explorers. But when they start sending soldiers, you're not exploring anymore. You're conquering. And an example was this fella right here, Cortez. We've heard of Cortez? Yes? What's his term? Cortez was do we know the Spanish term? He wasn't an explorer necessarily. I mean, of course he did explore a bit, but what? He's a conquistador. He is a conquistador, right? You must say it that way. As each syllable is uttered, you get higher in pitch. He is a conquistador. And with each syllable, you go a little bit quicker. And you say it with anger. He is a conquistador. What do you think about that? What do you think about that claim I just made? Yeah, you're not buying it. All right. So Cortez is a Spanish conquistador. And he learns that there's this massive empire, the Aztec Empire. And well, let's conquer it. Let's conquer that empire, right? And so does anyone know this little story? No. He and about 50 fellow conquistadores conquered the Aztec Empire. 50. This room and that room conquered the Aztec Empire. And you might think, how? And that's a good question. Any theories?
They had actual weaponry.
Weaponry, right? They had shields and armor, and the Indians had feathers and cane and wood. Okay, so, right, they kept throwing their bamboo at the Spanish and it bounced off. Any other theories? Any other theories? Yeah. The Spanish's main weapon was smallpox. Right? Now they didn't shoot smallpox from their cannons. Smallpox. It was I don't know about unknown, but it was like unintentional. The Indians just kept dying. But maybe most important of all was the Aztec Empire. It's an empire. What does that mean? What's an empire? As opposed to like a nation or a country. What's an empire? What? Mobile? Not necessarily. Maybe.
Oh, they have a specialization, so they have like different.
Well, that's true. That is true. Later on in this class, we're going to study World War I. We're going to study the Austro-Hungarian Empire. And later on, we're going to study the Ottoman Empire. What's an empire? How about Star Wars? The Empire. What does that mean? Basically, I know this is simplifying. That's a big word. An empire is when my group of people rules your group of people. Are you happy about that? Are you happy that you are being ruled by another group of people? Nope. The Aztec were an aggressive militaristic empire that would conquer its neighbors and then subjugate them. Well, who do you think is happy that here comes Cortez? Those people. The Aztec Empire was ripe for rebellion. It wasn't Cortez and 50 Spanish soldiers. It was Cortez, his 50 soldiers, smallpox, and thousands of other people ready to overthrow the Aztec. Helped him. So it wasn't this brave Spanish soldier taking on all these Indians. No, that is incorrect. It's estimated that that's a big range, isn't it? Somewhere between 2 and 20 million natives died of smallpox as a result of this aggressive attempt. But anyway, so now Spain has conquered and is now in control of Central America because of the conquering of the Aztec. Various other conquerings, including another conquistador named Cabrillo on the West Coast. Any of you ever been to the West Coast or California? Or have you noticed that a lot of the cities there are called Los or San? So Los Angeles or San Antonio or Santa Ana, whatever, Spanish names. And that is a clue to you that this was a city settled by the Spanish. So Los Angeles was settled by the Spanish, and San Antonio was settled by the Spanish, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. In red represents the Spanish Empire on its best day. So compare and contrast that with the previous slide where I showed you the Portuguese Empire, right? Portuguese was mainly around here. The Spanish is mainly over here. And what the Spanish are going to do is view this as we're the mother spider and here are the flies. Do you understand? When a state is added to the United States, when they add another star, the citizens of that state, are they equal to the original 13 states? Do they get just as many senators? They do, actually. When the United States extends westward expansion, one of the things that makes us eunuch is that when we extend, we create new political entities called states that are equal to the original 13. You're the same as us. You get 2 senators per state, and you get representatives based on population, and you can vote for president, and you can impact national policy. That is not what's going on here. So we're now contrasting. Okay, what the Spanish did was say, you exist for our benefit. We're going to take your wealth. We're going to take your resources to benefit mother country. Later on, England would do the same thing. The 13 colonies exist for our benefit. I'd love to know if anyone knows what that was called. So the picture the metaphor, right? It's the mother spider, the European country, having a colony for the benefit of mother country. Anyone know what that was called? Materialism? Imperialism, that's certainly true. That's another word for empire. Specifically, the economic system was called mercantilism, right? The imbalance of equality, the existence of the colonies for the benefit of the mother country, okay? And we'll revisit that. Kind of an impressive empire, though. I mean, look at that. Mercantilism.
Like merchant.
Yeah, kind of like merchant. Yep. The Spanish, in order to organize their new empire, organized different buildings. Missions and presidios were 2 examples. Does anyone know what a mission is? A church, that's right. We are going to Catholicize, is that a word? We are going to make Catholic all the people that we encounter. And where are the priests going to live? Missions. They're going to live in missions. And many are still in existence today. If any of you have been into San Antonio. Anyone know that famous mission there? It was attacked.
Somebody else knows.
No one knows the name of the mission that was attacked in San Antonio? Remember this is ironic. You can't remember what you were supposed to remember. Remember the Alamo. Remember the Alamo. Okay, very good. A presidio is a military fort. It's a military fort. So the Spanish are organizing their empire, and they're throwing out missions to convert, and they're throwing out military forts so the soldiers can live there. Okay? They're going to organize. One of the oldest European settlements, and that's pointed at the wrong place, St. Augustine, it should be pointing over here. St. Augustine, one of the oldest European settlements in the Americas. Within, it's kind of amazing. Within about 50 years of Columbus sailing that first time, there were Spanish towns, Spanish churches throughout the red area. Maybe not so much in what we today call the Western United States, but down here, Spanish towns, churches, everywhere. Schools, the Spanish were all in. And today you can see the end result of that, right? Predominantly Spanish culture in Mexico and going south. This is nothing new. You've seen this before, but all three were conquered. All three were conquered by Europeans, Spanish, and wiped out. Any questions there? One slide left. Ready? Again, if you're not, go to the website. All these slides are on there. Have any of you taken advantage of that yet in any way? Okay, well, that's fine. It's there if you need it. It's always there if you need it. All right. How about other countries? Spain is initially the dominant exploring and conquering nation, but other countries do get in the game. And you and I are the end result of the efforts of one of those nations. Do you understand? You and I am sitting here speaking to you, and you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth. Anyone understand? English. Okay, English, right? So England gets in the game. France gets in the game. What did they accomplish? How did they accomplish? Well, let's meet this guy. It says here John Cabot, and this is sort of amusing. His actual name was Johann Cobalto. He was Italian, and he was a sailor, and he was good at his craft. And but there is no Italy at this time. Italy is just a bunch of little kingdoms, and so he sold his services, and the English bought him, signed him to a contract. He then sailed for England, but the English couldn't pronounce his name. Right? Who are you? I am Johann Caboto. Nini. Johann Caboto. John.
Do we need to know his real name?
No, it's John Cabot. By the way, do you believe this?
Yeah.
You good, very good, because you should, because it's true. This is true. His actual name was Johann Caboto. The English said, "Now you're John." You'll see that pattern, by the way. The arrogant English, who later on we'll meet this Indian. His name was Metacomet, and the English like, Philip. My name's Metacomet, Philip. Okay, and look at what John accomplishes. He explores the western coast of what today we call the United States. And of course, then, as a result, the English claim the east coast of the United States. America, North America, right? And of course, it would become the English colonies. Verrazano, Spanish, who would explore parts of the east coast. And so now the French are in the game. A guy by the name of Jacques Cartier, who would explore the St. Lawrence Seaway. Have any of you been to Quebec? No? Most people in Quebec speak French today. In fact, Quebec, the province, has two official languages, English and French. And now you know why. Because the French claimed the area. Okay? So just a couple other explorers that got in the game, and now England's part of it, and the French are part of it. And of course, they would become the two dominant European powers in North America, because the Spanish would sort of concentrate their efforts on Central and South America. That's it as far as note-taking is concerned. Any questions? Very good. We can put that away. Let's attack
Cartier, or how do you say that name?
Jacques Cartier.
Yeah, he's the French guy.
He's French. Yep, he's French. So let's attack a document or two. Okay. Can I turn this off? So we are on document 3, I guess. So I'm asking you to retrieve these documents, and we'll attack a document for 2. Let's attack 2 because I have something else I want to accomplish, and then we'll call it a day. Who attacked document 3? 1. Oh, it's your show. All right.
Go giggle.
You get to talk. All right, very good. Who's our speaker? Mr. Zinn again. So could you boldly predict his view of Columbus? Hooray or boo-hiss? Probably a boo-hiss unless he fell that day when he was writing that chapter. He's probably boo-hiss to Columbus. All right? Why? What's wrong with Columbus according to document 3?
He was actually not the first man to see land. And he the first man who saw land was supposed to get 10,000 mayor on fees.
Dollars, whatever. Yep. And what happened?
And he claimed that he saw it, so he got the money.
He got the money. Yeah. Okay. So just so we understand this, there was a reward to the first man on one of the boats to see land. Whoever saw land first would be rewarded with a hefty financial reward from Columbus. And Columbus awarded it to Columbus. Even though the day before another guy said, I think I see land. What Columbus did was say, no, that's not land. Later on, there's the land, pointing to the same thing. I get it, says Chris. What a guy, right? The suggestion is that Columbus was selfish, in it for himself, greedy. Document that kind of points out that he really didn't know what he was doing. Yeah, this is the document. Lucky, right? Because let's think about it. He thought he could get to China by sailing west. He was wrong. The guy's an idiot. But he stumbled upon it. It's like saying, I guarantee you I could win the lottery. And I go and buy a lottery ticket and I win. And there are some people who said, wow, he's a brilliant lottery player. No, I got lucky. I won the one ticket, and you think I'm a good lottery player? That's what happened to Chris. He says, like, I can get us to China. And then he stumbles upon land. Yeah, there you go. There you go. You didn't know this was here. You got lucky. Spain got lucky. That's the point of this document. Okay, that he was actually a pretty poor sailor who stumbled into something even though he had no intention of making those discoveries. Okay. Any questions there? So right now, I have a feeling that if I were to survey the class as far as your opinion of Columbus, all you've been exposed to is Columbus the brute, Columbus the idiot, didn't know what he was doing, tortured and killed natives. I have a feeling that almost all of you would say, yeah, this guy's no good. Now let's look at the other side of the view. So I now introduce you to 2 other historians. Their names are Schweikert and Allen. There's a misprint here. It's Schweikert with a T at the end. Schweikert. I made a boo-boo. Schweikert and Allen. I will tell you what happened. Who are Schweikert and Allen? Schweikert and Allen are historians who read Zinn's book. And they read it like, this isn't right at all. So Zinn's book was called The People's History of the United States. They wrote their own history book called A Patriot's History of the United States in response to Zinn. Okay. And now we are being exposed to their first conclusion, according to the document, of Columbus. Right? Who attacked this one? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay. By the way, before we get to that, so let's say that you want to argue that Zinn believes that Columbus was Buhis, and you'd like to use that third document. Again, what you need to do is find 2 specific examples of Columbus, the bumbling sailor, the guy who did not know what he was doing. 2 specific examples. And I mean, one's right there. One is in the document itself, right? The rewarding of himself. But I need another one. Okay? So back to Schweikert and Allen. Hooray for Columbus or boo-hiss to Columbus? Hooray, obviously, right? It's the other side of the coin. Okay? Why? Those of you who read it. What was the argument being made? Go ahead.
He said that he showed different qualities that other explorers lacked, like being resilient, courageous, and confident.
Yeah, look at that second paragraph. Columbus embodied the best of the new generation of navigators. Resilient, courageous, confident. To be sure, Columbus wanted glory, and a motivation born of desperation fueled his vision. Reading the first paragraph. The prize for which Portuguese explorers had risked so much now seemed small in comparison to that discovered by their rivals, the Spanish, under the bold seamanship of Christopher Columbus, a man the King of Portugal had once refused to fund. And don't those other kings regret not hiring Columbus, right? Don't you think that after Columbus made his discovery, the King of England said, should have hired this guy? What did we do? We blew it. Don't you think the King of Portugal, after his name is Ferdinand, don't you think that after Columbus's discovery, Ferdinand thought, dang it, we blew it. This guy was right. Right? I mean, look at the end result of what Columbus did. Spain is it. The country that hired Columbus is it. We're not it. Columbus, the brilliant sailor. That's the argument being made. Columbus, the brilliant sailor. And think about it. I mean, on the way across the Atlantic, day after day, week after week of nothing. Don't you think the crew wanted to turn around and say, oh, this is it? And wasn't it Columbus that said, no, we're going that way? That's the leader. That's a leader. Okay, so that's the argument being made here. Now, again, 2 examples. 2 examples of Columbus, the brave leader. And I'm going to allow you to consider the possibility of this. You ever heard of George S. Patton? Anyone ever heard of that guy? Patton? Who was he? Generally. Who was he? He was an American. American general. That's right. And he basically conquered Western Europe. He took Europe away from the Nazis. And we admire the guy. Are we aware of the Roman Empire? Good soldiers, right? Brave, conquer their neighbors. Why? And I'm only asking this. Why is it that when the Romans conquer their neighbors, we say, wow, brave? And when the Americans conquer the Germans, we say, brave. But when the Europeans kick butt against the natives, we say, awful. How terrible of you. Why? Why can't we say those brave Europeans who conquered the Indians, kicked butt, and that Columbus was one of them? And I'm only asking, all right? So don't go home and say, Mr. Potter thinks the Indians are dead, and that's good. I never said that. Don't put words in my mouth. Okay, I'm just asking the question. Isn't that strange? Right? Later on in this class, we'll explore how can we admire Rosa, the person who defied the law, and yet when other people defy the law, we say criminal. Wasn't Rosa a criminal? What's the difference? They both broke the law. How come sometimes we say, hooray, you broke the law, and at other times we say, you broke the law, jail? Why? What's the difference? There's probably an answer. I'm just asking the question, right? Okay. Any other questions on there? Okay, we'll put that away. I now have a handout for you. Don't do anything with this yet. You will. In order to do this correctly, successfully, you need the highlighters, which are over there. You need 3 different colors, and I will retrieve them for you, unless one of you wants to take charge. And handing out the highlighters to everyone, so that everyone has 3. 3 different colored highlighters. If you choose one highlighter and you choose 3 of the same color highlighter, this will be useless. Everyone having 3 different colored highlighters. Are you gonna walk to every student?
Yes.
Wow.
Thanks, Alex.
So nice.
You said that in the mouth.
Well, yes, I mean, you could just pass the cart. Great. You're doing great.
Oh, you got a baby.
So as she's handing this out, I want to bring you back to the thesis that was written by a student last year, and pointing out that this is a good thesis statement because it identifies the 2 comparison points, Pepper and Amante, and it says that they're alike in some way, and that would be ingredients. It says that they're different in some way, that the ingredients is the contrast, compare, and the atmosphere is the contrast. And I'm going to suggest some other things. Does anyone know what synthesis is? Synthesis.
Isn't that comparing one historical event to another one?
Very good. So synthesis is when you say, gee, this situation at this time is a whole lot like another situation that's similar. For example, what if we're talking about methods of punishment in the United States, and we come up with, well, what are the different methods of punishment in the U.S. in general?
Prison.
Jail, prison.
The death penalty.
That's true.
Fines, community
Fines.
service.
Yep, community service. You got it. Okay. I'm saying, gee, if we were going to introduce synthesis, I would say, gee, that's a whole lot like the different methods of punishment within your family. Now, I don't think anyone's family has the death penalty, but that's the idea of it. Well, how do your mom and dad punish you? Well, do they ever send you to your room? That's sort of like jail. Do they ever withhold a financial reward, or take the car keys away, or take your phone away? That's sort of comparing one situation to another, and that can be suggested as synthesis. It's when you compare this to that. Well, Pepper and Amante are 2 specific restaurants, and I'm hinting that, you know what? What about other restaurants? So you are going to be asked to synthesize in your essays. And don't worry if you don't know how. I don't expect you to know how yet. Okay? So just be patient. And then finally, you have judgment. I have rendered one better than the other. That's what you're going to be doing. Whose version of history is the more accurate? Zinn's or Schweikert and Allen? And one of the topics they disagree with is Columbus. But there are other areas where they disagree, and we'll start exploring those starting tomorrow. Okay? Any questions on a well-written thesis? You are going to be writing a well-written thesis about Zinn versus Schweikert and Allen over Columbus and one other thing. Okay? But hold on, let's not go there yet. So now you have this. This is the first paragraph of the essay about Pepper and Amante. This is the first paragraph. And I'm telling you that there are 3 parts to it. There's a hook, there's a roadmap, and there's a thesis. See if you can figure it out. I've given you 3 highlighters. Go.
Like when we code our papers and sociology.
That's right. I would suggest, this is just a suggestion, but I would suggest find the thesis first. Notice where it is. Okay, there we go.
me suggest some other things to maybe help you think about what you think the point of the hook is. What's the goal of the hook of the introductory paragraph? What do you think the goal of a roadmap is? A roadmap tells you where you're going. There's a roadmap in the first paragraph. It tells the reader where the rest of your essay is going. And then what's the point of the thesis? Thesis is basically a one-sentence summary of the argument being made. Anyone need more time? Which is totally fine. Okay. Well, let's see how you did. So, hook. It's 6:30 p.m. and one Twin Cities family is starving. What will they eat? Chinese food gives daughter Julie ulcers, and the Smiths haven't gone grocery shopping in 2 weeks. The refrigerator's full of leftovers on the verge of spoiling. And that's when Dad, that's when it hits Dad. Pizza! But where? There are options everywhere. Pray tell, what is the point of a hook?
To catch the reader's attention.
Gets the reader's attention. It brings you in. I want to keep reading. And let me suggest that a hook for the essays in this class, there are multiple strategies. The simplest one is simply a restatement of the question. For example, in your first essay, you're comparing Zinn versus Schweikert and Allen as far as their interpretation of various topics, one of them being Columbus. A simple hook would be this. Was Columbus awful? There's your hook. I now am interested in the paper if Columbus interests me. That's a strategy. Simply asking the question is a hook. But there are other ways to bring in a hook. A hypothetical story. Why don't you, as a hook, tell me about something Columbus actually did? And then start asking questions. That's what I did. I'm telling you a story. And then I ask, but where? Right? You tell me a little story and then say, does this prove Columbus was blah, 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 blah? There's one story that's apparently true of Columbus seeing this exotic bird and he wanted it. So he took his sword out and stabbed the owner and took the bird. Okay? What a story, right? And then you'd ask, does this show that Columbus was an awful egomaniac? Question mark. Howard Zinn thinks so. Blah, 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 blah. Schweikert and Allen think this is an aberration, blah, 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 blah. Okay? What's your hook going to be? I want you to start thinking about that. Okay? The roadmap is telling me what the rest of the essay will be about. Look at this roadmap. One factor in making an important decision like this would be the quality of food. Another would be the location and atmosphere of the restaurant. 2 restaurants come to mind. What's the rest of this paper going to be about?
2 restaurants.
Yes. Quality of the food. Let me ask this. What is the topic of paragraph number 2?
Set up the food.
This is paragraph number 1. This is paragraph number 1.
Paragraph number 2.
What's paragraph number 2 going to be about?
The atmosphere. Quality of the food.
Quality of food. Look at this sentence. One factor in making an important decision like this would be the quality of food.
And then
That's going to be the topic of paragraph number 2. The topic of paragraph number 3 would be the atmosphere of the restaurant. How do I know that? This is called paper consistency. The order of the paper matches the order of the paragraph. If the paragraph says A, then the next paragraph should be about A. Then the paragraph says B, then the following paragraph should be about B. Paper consistency, okay? And then we have the thesis, which you've already seen on the previous page, right? The thesis has all of the necessary ingredients. It's got the 2 topics, pepper and amate, and it's got the 2 areas of comparison. You're going to be writing about Zinn And Schweikert and Allen, that's the pizza places, Zinn and Schweikert and Allen. And then you're going to be comparing their views of not the ingredients, but Columbus. And not the location, but some other topic that we haven't talked about yet. And you are going to render judgment. Which one's right and which one's wrong? That's all going to be in one sentence. The thesis. One sentence. Okay. Columbus is topic number 1. We haven't discovered topic number 2 yet, but we'll address that maybe not tomorrow, but next week. Okay. Tomorrow we'll probably finish up the documents regarding Columbus. That's what I would predict. Okay. Any questions before we shut off? Okay. You can mentally shut off and take a 5-minute. And I'm out.
Do we need to keep this?
You don't need to, but you can. I would actually suggest you do keep this so that when you start practicing your writing of this first essay, you can kind of go along with this.